Okay, so welcome to the tutorial for the Summit Worship Mainstage template. The point of this tutorial is to hopefully help guide you through this layout and the tools here to quickly feel comfortable with diving in and tweaking sounds and getting good sounds we can use on Sunday as fast as possible with as little confusion. So the idea is to use a MIDI controller, Mainstage, this template, and this little korg nano MIDI controller with knobs and encoders on it to control a layout that brings a lot of the commonly used sounds that we have to the surface and make them easily tweakable. So there are three primary patches: a piano patch, an organ patch, and an electric piano patch. They are very similar other than the primary sounds change, and the primary sound block is this one in orange. So as you can see, the colors on the nano controller correlate to the Mainstage template view, so that hopefully you can easily see what you need to be able to adjust without having to look at the screen, and over time kind of learning where the certain sounds are without having to reference it. So first off, we'll start with the piano patch. The sort of standard piano plus pad sound I've got dialed in here sounds a little bit something like. So I'll pull the pad out. So the two pads are here, and then there's like a master pad fader right here in the first purple, so you can just hear the piano by itself. And so you've got a button that engages and disengages the sound. You have a fader where you can pull it in and out. You could fade it out or just make it a little lower if you wanted to. A tone knob, which controls the overall tone of the piano. Pretty much at 12 o'clock is what I would consider a pretty usable everyday piano sound. If you go all the way to the left, you can get a pretty dark, soft piano sound. Could be good when someone's talking or giving a testimony or something and you want to play underneath them, So, that'd be pretty cool for that. And then if you turn it up all the way, you get a much brighter. Which is, good for when you really want the piano to punch and get through the mix. There's two levels of compression. There's a soft compressor, a hard compressor, and you can turn them both on at the same time for sort of max compression. So another feature that I think is really useful is this octave feature. So it's actually on a couple different buttons, but for the piano, what that's going to let you do is get that really, wide sounding octave. What it does is it takes the note and duplicates what you play one octave above it, so that you can get that sound even though maybe you can't quite reach, or it's difficult to reach those. So like, for example, doing Forever, like the lead line for that is a good example of an octave riff. So we'll turn the tone up all the way. We'll bring a little pad back in there, and we have both compressors on. And then, so if we turn, we'll do it without the octave first. So it'll be like. Right, so now adding the octave in, you get the. But I'm just playing with one finger on this right hand, and then I can turn it off and go to my kind of regular piano sound. I can turn down a little bit if I wanted to. And then if I want to go back to the riff, I just turn the octave back on, and I can do the. So I think that was pretty cool feature. You can also add some shimmer in to the reverb. So there's two reverb there's a fader for the reverb level. There is a knob for the reverb decay, and then you can add some shimmer into the reverb on the piano. So see if you can hear this. It's with shimmer, without. So if I turn the decay and the reverb level up all the way, very wet, and then with the shimmer on. So as you can hear, that lasts really, really long time. So I've generally found that kind of right at noon on that knob and about halfway here is a nice, piano level. Adds a little something without it sounding like it's super wet. So then the next two encoders here are related to the piano tone, the primary tone, and that is an eighth note delay and a dotted eighth note delay. So that's where this feature ends up coming in. So right now, you have to tap in the tempo of the song. So like if I know it's, you're hearing the click in your ear and it's 75, let's see if I can get there. We'll go with 71 BPM. You'll be able to get a echo delay as you turn these up. So that's an eighth note. I'll turn on the metronome so you can hear it here. If I want to do a dotted eighth note delay, so it's still an eighth note, but it's delayed by a 16th note, so it sits between your notes more, and you can turn them both on and get that kind of like ping-pongy thing. Okay, so the next section we'll talk about here is the pad section. Basically, you've got your on and off buttons right here. You have octaves for each one, so that's just going to double your notes and make it sound more full. So that can be a good and a bad thing. You could overuse that. You don't want to hit like all the notes at one time, but it could be useful if you want to fill up a space. And then like a fader for each one. So we'll do the warm pad first. So here, nice and warm. Very subtle. So then let's talk about the filter section here, which is kind of with the master fader for the pads. So a low pass filter is basically like a tone knob. What it's going to do is filter out certain high frequencies. So if I bring up the EQ, you can see as I turn this knob to the right are the highest frequencies, to the left are the lowest ones. As I turn this, it's going to cut more and more high out to the point that you can barely hear it there. But then I can bring more in, and essentially if I turn it all the way to the right, it's basically off. So this is a warm pad, so it's not going to make as big of a difference on this one, but you can hear there's a little more kind of some air up there at the top. I also have some shimmer on here. You can turn that on and off here. You can hear that come in. But then if I bring my filter down, it's going to tame that quite a bit. So that's the warm pad. We'll do the swell pad now. Same sort of setup. So it's a little more of like kind of an 80s. You can hear it kind of swelling in. The prophet sound. And then as I bring the filter up, you can hear it get a lot brighter. The volume up. So there you can hear it a lot better. And then you can use that to almost like fade your pad out as well and just make it like super dark and mellow. So I'll bring both of them up together with the filter on pretty heavily. And you could add some dynamics up part of the song, bring that in. So there's also a pulse that is tied to the tap tempo as well. There is a way to sync tempo between Mainstage and Ableton. Maybe that's something we'll explore one day, but for now you'll have to tap it in. So this is with the sort of pulsing sound on. And that's going to be syncopated to the beat. So if I tap a faster beat, I can get a faster pulse. Sometimes you hear that in songs, that sort of like low pulsing thing. Turn the shimmer off. Okay, so the next section is the lead section. This is like a punchy lead sound. And it also has a filter on it, so we can make it a lot brighter and more. There's also an arpeggiating function on it, so you can get that. Also going to be synced to our beat. So it's a good example. Sometimes if something gets stuck, it does seem like it happens with the arpeggio if I push too many buttons and hold the sustain pedal down at the same time. If it ever gets stuck, there's this panic button you can hit that'll always stop the sound. So, you can tap in a slower tempo. And then also the delays work on the lead as well. Turn off the arpeggio. Okay, so next we have the string section. It also has a filter on it, so you can make it darker. Alright, we'll take the pads back out so you can just hear the strings. So you can almost turn them into a pad as well. And one of the other, there's also a reverb level you can turn up on those. One of the other cool features is, so they are all velocity sensitive, so the harder you push, the longer you push, the more that it swells in. But there's also a fast function, so you can do the like really, the legato. That's the string section, and then you've got a master output right here. So one of the cool things is you can really layer different sounds together to make like new pads or different pads. So for example, I could pull the pads out, but I could bring the strings and the leads in and turn the filters down on them and get kind of like a sort of like a synthy pad. You can bring in your other pads. If you want a little lower, you can just bring the warm pad in and then have a different variation. Bring the filter up for like a big part of the song. Bring the other one in. This is everything. So you could see how you could even just add different sounds in and get a new pad sound by using the filters and using different levels just to mix things up a little bit. Okay, so next we'll go to the organ patch. You can get to that by hitting this next select button, so you can hear what the organ sounds like. We can make it a little brighter with this tone knob. Adds in one of the drawbars. You can hear it up here better. Speed up the rotor. We can add a chorus sort of sound to it. There's a drive level. Make it a little more drivey. We also have a reverb. And there's also, you can turn note percussion on, so that's where it's like, the notes are a little more plucky. And that's really the only difference. Everything over here is exactly the same. Now, I will point out the only thing you do have to watch out for is making sure that your knobs line up from patch to patch. So sometimes what can happen, like you'll see right here, for example, on the strings, I'll turn that on real quick. And you can hear here's your strings. And see how my knob is not really lined up with what's on screen. So if I turn it, it's going to jump. So you do have to be a little careful going from screen to screen because these don't, the knobs don't move obviously and the patches stay the same. So it can jump around. So you might want to check that if you're changing between these during a set. If you're not going to use that sound, it doesn't matter, but anything that you're going to use, it will matter on. And then the third one is an electric piano sound. So that's a little something like this. It has a tremolo effect, which we can turn up a little more. You can hear it, some of the hard panning. Extreme. The wide controls the width of the reverb that's on here, so you can hear it if you have headphones on. It also has a chorus and a drive knob. It's great for softer, mellow parts. Again, like an invitational or over someone talking, a lot less bright than a piano. And also you can add the delay in as well. And then you've got all the same sounds you had on the first patch. So hopefully that helps walk you through this relatively quickly, and you can see how you can dial in, usable sounds every Sunday pretty quickly.